Let's welcome to Let's Go Live. I
Thank
have with
you.
me romance author Ryan Marie and fellow Houstonian.
Yay. And I'm wearing my colors today.
You're
So
representing.
everybody can see there's a game. We're big baseball fans
We're
in our house.
competing with the game.
Yes. But at the same time it also kind of ties in with an upcoming release. So kind of twofold.
I know. So I think I originally reached out to you in your DMs because you had posted a reel with the Houston skyline, and I was like, I know that skyline. I look at it like every day.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
is that okay? So which book is that? Is that Westbound, or is
It's Westbound, which is the second one coming out September 29th. And I love Houston. We've been here for about 17 years. I'm not originally from here, but I always tell everybody when we got here, it was like, oh my gosh, it took me too long to get here. I was always supposed to be here. And so I'm in love with Houston and everything Texas. So I decided to base my series in Texas and in the Houston area. And then again, I'm a huge baseball fan, so I was like, what better way to tie it all
like
together.
these are my people?
Yes.
I found them.
Yes, exactly.
She's so cute, such a mom babe, not boss.
Those are I have to say hi to all them. My hype crew is what I call them because they get me like super pumped up, especially when I'm feeling down and you get that like imposter syndrome when you look at something you wrote and you're like, why am I doing this? Why is nobody's gonna buy this? And so they hype me up. They're the most amazing group of ladies ever, and I just totally love them so much.
So sweet. Hey y'all.
Hi. And especially to my partner in crime, she knows who she is.
We love that. That's sweet. No, I totally understand that feeling. I have like three main confidants that I call with my freak out moments. And one of them is my sister. She's been like my best friend and soulmate forever. But I just finished my book on Tuesday, went off to the editor. And then, I don't know if you've experienced this, like right after, like that next day, because it's such a push, you're just like, what do I do with myself? And then all that imposter syndrome comes up. It's the worst book I've ever written.
Yes.
No one's going to read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I've totally felt that. Well, and what's strange is that, so I've been hoarding stories because, it's crowded in here and I have a lot of people. So I could be in the middle of dinner and I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody hold on, I'll be right back. And I run off to the room and grab one of the 50 notebooks that I have and scribble ideas down. And then I would go back later and kind of build on it. And so I feel like I've just been hoarding all these stories forever. So when I finally first published The Pieces Left Behind, it took me forever to finally hit the publish button. And then when I did, it was like 24 hours later and I was like, oh my gosh, this was the dumbest thing I've ever done. Why did I do this? I'm putting myself out there. Everybody's going to be like, who is this person and who said she could write? So it's really scary. And even still, I have a few different projects going and I have this amazing woman who I just love. And I'll be like, what do you think of this? She's like, that's great. And I'm like, you're just saying that. You don't mean it. I'm still be your friend. You don't have to say it. I'll still be your friend even if it's awful. But it's tough trying to just tell yourself it's okay to feel proud of what you write and it's okay to feel good about it because I just feel like no, I shouldn't be. This is going to be bad. It's going to be huge. It's going to be a train wreck and it's going to be disastrous.
I think that's every author though. I heard a quote the other day, I think it was just yesterday. They're like, when you have imposter syndrome, when you freak out and think that it is the worst thing you've ever written, that's when you know you're a great writer. Because those that are like using AI or those that are not necessarily writing, and not to knock anyone that uses a ghostwriter because that's really important in the industry, but they're like, when you use other people's work under your name, you don't necessarily have the imposter syndrome because you're not the one that created it. So you're not the one freaking out and you're not the one that's the harsh critic that we all have inside our head.
Yes. Yes, I totally agree because everything I put out, it's every little thing that I share with somebody or little tidbits or ideas, I'm just like, why did I tell them that? That is so dumb. And, and I sit there and tell myself, like, you're just wasting your time. You're wasting your time. You're wasting everybody's money. Just stop doing this. And then, an hour later, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have the best idea. So I'm back to writing it down and plotting it out.
It is. It's this,
Yes.
Yeah. And so sometimes you're like, this is the best thing ever written. And the next day, you're like, this is the worst thing ever written.
100%. Totally.
And I understand what you're saying about hype girls. We all need them. I have a beta. With 2 books ago, I had 4 betas. And one of them she was the worst beta ever, but she was in #1 hype girl. And she's like, oh my God, I changed nothing. I love it all. And I'm like, okay, well, you're definitely fired. But you can head up my street team.
Yes. That's what I tell. I recently got a PA because I just felt a little overwhelmed with, I decided I'm going to put out these books a little bit faster than I originally planned.
Yeah.
And that was based off the advice of this phenomenal group of writers that said, no, keep the momentum going. Don't stop. Don't wait 6 months. Do it quick. So I kind of felt a little overwhelmed. So I got this amazing PA and she's just so awesome. And she's like, that's great. And I'm like, I'm paying you. So you don't have to say, like, just be honest. Don't just say because I'm paying you. She's like, I'm not. But sometimes
no, that's
I feel the same way.
Because where did you find her? PAs are so hard to find. And, I feel like there is, and this is any kind of author services, right? This is cover design, this is editing, dev editing, proofreaders, review companies, promo companies, you name it, right? There's good and bad. And there's those that are like predatory for new writers and they prey on them. They don't do anything but take their money. And then there's some good ones. And I feel bad because the good ones get all like blurred in there.
Yeah. Well, so she came to me as an ARC. I originally signed up with a company to kind of help with a little bit of the ARCs on the first release. And she came to me as an ARC. And then afterwards she reached out and she just kind of popped in and was like, I really love it. I responded back, and I don't know if you've experienced it, but whether it's face-to-face or, this way electronically, sometimes you just click and you just know, you just really know, like, this is my person. And that's how it was. And luckily for her right now, I don't have too much craziness sending her way, but I'm sorry, Alicia, you're going to have, as it gets busier, she's probably going to get a little bit more to do, but she's amazing. She helps me not feel so down sometimes when I'm feeling like, when I read a bad review and I tell myself I shouldn't read it, she's like, you need to not listen to those.
It's hard.
It's so hard because I think, okay, I'm just going to read one and see if it's constructive and it'll help me, future. And then I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, it really is the worst thing.
And the next one, and you're like, oh.
Yes. So I'm like, okay, don't do that. But she's been great with like, building up my confidence and
Goodreads.
Yeah, that's what they said. They've told a few of them are like, don't go on Goodreads. I'm like, I know. I couldn't help it.
I have I do interviews with like bookstagrammers and book bloggers, and they're like, Goodreads is not for authors, it's for us.
Yeah.
The reader.
Mm-hmm. Oh, most definitely. I completely believe that. And now that I'm on the other side of it, I'm like, I'm going to uninstall this app. I never want to see it again. I hope somebody reports it and they pull it away from people because it's so awful. But yeah, she's amazing at trying to tell me like, hey, don't get down, or she'll say, oh, I like this, or what do you think of that? So she helps me in all aspects, like organizing some things. And again, I see once this next release comes out and another project that I'm working on, I'm going to ramp up as far as being busy. So I might have to pass her a few more things to do. So hopefully she's okay with it.
Nice.
But she's, it kind of was just one of those things where it just worked out for both of us. It was timing. It was a connection. And we both were like, yeah, okay, this works. So let's do it. And
so what are the typical things that you pass to her? For those that are listening, that want a VA?
Right now we're a little bit at a standstill because I'm finishing up some last edits on WestBound. But it was kind of like setting up the ARC list, doing the forms. She, sent out some reminders. And as we get closer to release, it'll be a lot more communication, sending graphics for them to use on release week. And I say she's going to do this, but then I also hop in like, oh yeah. And so it's hard for me sometimes to just like back up, but I know I need to. So it's probably going to be a little bit more communication with like the ARC team.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, that's good because you want to, it's a fine line, right? You don't want to inundate them, but you also need to provide enough support so that way they're excited, there's buzz, you know what they're supposed to be doing, and not just getting like free reads.
Right.
There's a responsibility
And
there.
there's our hype crew, our party people, that's what we call them. It is, again, they are the most amazing ladies I've ever met, because we haven't, done the whole face-to-face thing yet.
Yeah.
But 2, 3, 4, 8, 10 of us are on every day in some type of little communication, back to school. So people are like, this is my baby. And then we'll come back and we'll talk a little books. And then, somebody else will post something else, a question. And so it's kind of become this little, our little group, our little community where we talk books, but at the same time, we are really getting to know each other. So I'm really fortunate that I have these women that don't just want free stuff. They're invested in me. And I'm grateful. I'm very grateful.
So is that your brain trust? Is that your art team, or is that your street team?
My street team. Right now I wear a lot of hats. I have a beta reader. She's fabulous. She pointed out things to me that I was like, oh my gosh, you're so right. I can't believe I missed that, or I didn't even think about it that way. But I'm doing a lot on my own, just mostly as an indie author, and knowing that, my husband is like, we're going to have to budget here. You're going to have to slow down on what you're spending. I'm like, okay. So I try to take on as much as I can. And I've really learned a lot about, everything from, beginning to end, as far as promoting and graphic design and editing and book covers and all that. So it's been really interesting and fun.
Well, as an indie, you do wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Because most indies, obviously don't have advancements. It's a very shoestring budget.
Yes.
You can do things in trade. That's helpful. If you have, your group that are willing to do it for free. I mean, that's amazing.
Yes. Sorry, there's my dog. Yeah, it is. Because right now, like I said, I do so much on my own. So a lot of my street or my hype team, they are so great with making edits and TikToks and sharing, and they pass around. We all kind of coordinate, or we work to make sure we're kind of posting something on the same day around the same time. And so it's trying to create this buzz, which I'm starting to see on my end, which is phenomenal and amazing. And I cried and I jumped and I screamed. So it's really just all the working together and kind of coordinating things. It's been great and helping a lot. So I imagine that as we get further on into books, some of these nice ladies who are helping from the kindness of their heart are going to be like, maybe we need a little bit more. So I expect to be passing out some goodies to them just as a thank you, because they're amazing and they help a lot.
And it makes you feel so supportive. So even when you're, like we talked about imposter syndrome, but even when you're just down or you're unsure, or when you're, kind of ramping up to the next release, and then when that book does release, if you think about it, you're at the bottom of the mountain again, right? So you got to start all over, write another book. And so it can be daunting. The whole process can be daunting at times.
It is. And I think that's probably why I waited so long to publish, because I kept looking at all the steps, and I belong to this
overwhelming.
It's so overwhelming. And I'm like, you mean you don't just type in words and then send it off and people are like, oh my God, we love you.
It's a bestseller.
You're the next Elsie Silver. We love you, type thing. Like, I know we're not all going to be these overnight sensations like her, but I'm like, what do you mean there's 5,000 steps before I can hit the publish button? Like, how does this work? So it took me a lot of time to learn about it, learn about the craft, learn about marketing, learn about just the steps that you take to publish as an indie. And this, like I said, this group of authors that I was very fortunate enough to join have been a great support in helping with that. And so one of them was like, what are you waiting for? What's the worst that's going to happen? They won't read it. But then what? And I was like, okay, I'll try it. So I did. And I think I tell her probably on a daily basis, like, thank you so much. You're the reason why any of this is happening. And
Nice.
yeah, it's great.
Did you find this group online, or are they also like in person? Because I feel like no one's meeting in person anymore.
No. And I would love to find a group and meet in person.
Yeah.
Because of that same reason. I think once COVID hit, everybody's been so, screen to screen instead of face to face. So I would love to do that. But this author I found because I just fell in love with her books. I was reading them constantly. I did some ARCs. And then before you know it, I was in her readers group. I contributed a little bit to one of her releases. And then somehow I ended up in her authors group. And she's like, what are you doing? Publish. Don't hold back. Just let it go. And it's a Facebook group. And there's some names in there that you're just like, they'll post different author spotlights, and I'm like, oh my God, she made a comment, or this person said good job. Yes. I'm trying to act cool, like, oh, that's nice, thanks so much. But then I turn around, and I'm like, oh my God, she said hello. She said you did a good job.
Yeah.
So I still have very, very huge fangirl moments, but the group is just phenomenal. And like I said, there's authors who have yet to publish. They're in that process. And then I have some that are New York Times bestsellers in there, and they're giving advice, and they're there to help when you have questions, or when you're having that bad day where you're like, I never should have done this. They're there to say, no, keep going. Don't give up. It's a very high mountain to climb, but it's worth it.
It is. And by the way, we can meet in person. We can start our own club, and we can figure out who's in Houston. There are a lot of people in town, and there are some, I know of 3 authors, but they are extremely, extremely successful. Yeah. Two of them run their own masterminds. So you're not getting time with them unless you buy into the conference. Conference is I think it has to be 6 figures and above. There's all these requirements to get in. And so my very good friend who's a dev editor, she's up in just south of Dallas. And so she comes in town, she's invited to it to speak, but she's like, you're not getting any time with her. Okay, well, there's probably get a baby group. We'll start a baby group.
I think so. We'll start our baby group, and before you know, it'll be you can't sit with us. We're too high.
We're cool kids now.
Exactly. Although I don't feel like I will ever be at that level. And even if I am, I don't have the heart in me to be like, no, you can't sit over here. This is for certain people only. I'm very much like, yep, everybody join.
I did all that. I had I was in drill team and cheerleading, so I got enough of that mean girl.
Yes.
That's me.
Have you done PTO? Because that is a whole other level of mean girl.
I know. So no, I don't think I'd ever be like that. But anyway, so getting into your book, let's talk about your author journey. When did it start? How did you know you wanted to do romance?
So I guess the writing process, as far as romance, began about 10 years ago. I've always loved to read. I used to want to be a sports journalist, and so that oh yeah, yes. Back in the day, it was oh my gosh, and now I just completely forgot.
Aaron Andrews. That's
exactly. And so I always just wanted to be a sports journalist. I grew up watching sports with my grandfather and my dad and my uncles. So I thought that's where I was going to go. Yeah. Life took me a little bit different, which ended up being the mom route.
Well, life is lifing.
Yes. It took me a little different direction, but that itch to just constantly create was always there. I loved reading. I would read a lot of history, and then I can't even say what it was one day, flipping through Apple books or something, and I was like, oh, what's this book? And I clicked on it, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I devoured it. And before I know it, I was like, I read 8 books this week.
Like a whole new world. What is sorcery?
It was. And little by little, I'm devouring these new tropes and these new books, and Happy Sunshine and the dark ones, and you're like, ooh, wow, okay. And so from there, the ideas that I had as far as sports and how I would interact with an athlete if I was the Michelle Tafoya. That's what I was trying to say. If I was the Michelle Tafoya of my time, how I would interact turned into the stories that, I mean, they snowball in my head. And so I started writing them down as something just for me.
Yeah.
It was just to get it out of my head because, like I said, it's crowded and there's a lot of stuff in here.
There's a lot of voices. Don't worry about it.
A lot. And my husband goes, they make medication for that. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's not the same.
We're not quieting my friends in there.
No, that doesn't quiet them. It just brings on new ones. It's a whole new problem.
I know, right?
Yeah. But I just started writing and I just really fell in love with it. And of course, when you first start, you go back and you read some of your stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, that's like really cringy. But as time went on, I could see the little improvements and it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm not half bad at this and maybe I should try it.
Yeah.
And again, I fell into that authors group and she was like, yeah, you should try it. Just do it. And a couple of since then, they've been like, girl, you did it. I'm so proud of you. Way to go. You know, you did it. Now just hang on because it's going to be a long, wild ride. And I mean, it was just, I don't want to say I fell into it, but it wasn't something that I've been lifelong dreaming type thing.
Right. Okay. So when did it cross over from where you're just writing it for you to when you wanted to put it out in the world? And then how long did it take you to write it? How many words is it?
The pieces left behind, I believe is 107,000. It's a lot. And that's what I cut some of it out. I was like, I've got to stop this story at some point. We've got to put an end to this.
Mine come in about 125, 135, and everybody's like, romances are 80. And I'm like, I can't tell the story.
But there's so much going on. I'm like, how am I supposed to just cut it off? Yeah.
Okay, this month, my fellow long-winded writer, because everyone I talk to, they're just like, 75 to 80, and I got it all done. I'm like,
yeah, no. The one right now, WestBound right now, I think is at like 97, and I'm like, why is it so short? I feel like I need to do more. Like, I owe these people more words. They're gonna get to it, and they're gonna be like, that's it. What? She didn't give us anything. I don't understand. But looking at some of the other ones, I kind of compare pages, similar tropes and books, and I'm like, wow, I am way up there. So I guess I can go ahead and stop here. We'll go ahead and take out 5 chapters and then stop.
You can keep going, and I would still read it. Aww. Okay, so how long did it take you to write it, and then when did you cross over from writing it for you into writing it to a published work?
I would say about 3 years ago, I decided I'm going to do this. I'm really going to do it. I started a story and then decided not that one. And then I started another one and said, not that one either. So finally I got to one last year that I went about 5 months really digging into it and writing it, researching. I was going to publish in March, and in early February, something happened, a system crash, and I lost it all. I lost all of it. I cried my eyes out to my husband, to my daughter, to my best friend.
Everybody.
And I just cried.
Everybody. I would be depressed.
Yes, everybody who knew that I was writing, because a lot of my friends and family still don't know. And so I cried, and it was like, this is the sign. I need to not do it. But I think it took me about a week, and finally I was like, no, I'm not going to go back now. I've gotten this far with the process. I'm going to keep going. So I would say probably the end of February, I started The Pieces Left Behind, and I published it May 23rd. And it was, yes, it was one of those,
just like,
I mean, constant. Yes, my youngest is in school still, so he was gone during the day. My middle child, she's doing schooling herself, and my husband works from home. However, he's in his office, door closed. So I literally had 8 hours, 5 days a week to just sit. And then on top of that, I'd spend evenings in bed writing, and my husband's like, you're writing again? I'm like, yeah, I am. So just gonna have to wait there, buddy. I'm busy. So I really just poured into it, and
Girl, my
I found that
eyeballs would be bleeding. I could not look at that screen.
oh, I went to the eye doctor. This eye is no longer very good. She's like, quit staring at the screen. I'm like,
I
okay, lady,
burned
that's
this
like,
one up. This one's okay.
yeah. I'm like, that's like telling you not to check people's vision. Leave me alone, and you do your job, and I'll do mine. Like, seriously. But I found that that time constraint actually helped me write better and helped me focus. Because I'm that type of person, and it's like, you know, I have this time frame and I have to get this done in this amount of time. And if I don't, then I get down on myself and I beat myself up because I let other people down. So telling myself, I had already set a date for the previous one, which was Beat Still My Heart, which I cried writing. And so I was really upset when I lost it. But I told myself, I've already set a timeline for that book, so I'm going to stick with it. And we're just going to grab this other idea that I had, and we're going to roll with it. And I am so glad, because I am so in love with my characters, Vaughn and Camille, and I just feel like they're part of me. And I'm like, gosh, I think it was a blessing in disguise, because now I don't feel like my other would have had the same appeal. I don't think it would have done as well. It was a very different route. So I feel like it's a blessing in disguise, because it really helped me. And it helped the momentum to the point where, you know, that one was done. I'm like, all right, let's go. Next one. Gotta go.
Yeah, you made her cry. Aww. But dang, oh my gosh, mad respect, because, you know, like we said, that's a lot of words in an incredibly short amount of time. I mean, just awe-inspiring. Yeah. So WestBound.
Yes. Yay! I'm so excited for WestBound. Again, this group of ladies.
And when did you start?
Okay, so WestBound, let's see, I believe I started probably, I want to say mid-June. I started. Again, I said, I have the idea. I'm sure you're the same way, but you're in the middle of a story and then you're like, wait, let me go make a few notes, because I just thought of like a whole other story. Yeah. I have a story that it's like, in 2 years, I'm going to get to this, but I need to write it down now because it's there.
You'll forget it. Everybody has new idea syndrome.
Exactly. So mid-June, I had already kind of decided what I wanted to go with. It's part 2 in the Magnolia Creek series. So I've kind of already set it up. And so it's done. There's some last minute.
Okay, hold on.
I have some cleaning up and some polishing to do. You know, I got some suggestions back from my beta, and I've got to get some more edits done, but I'm set to release September 29th. And again, I really think it's that putting that time frame that just helps me zero in. And it also helps that I don't have, I'm very fortunate that I don't have another job outside of this. So I can pour everything into this. And that's.
Okay, can we pause right there? Because there are children at home for the summer with you.
Yeah.
So I can understand why, like, they're off at school, but now you have them at home. It's been 40 days of 100 degrees in Houston.
Oh my God.
No
weather.
No rain in sight.
Yeah.
We're all like, can we get a tropical storm or something? Which is, you know, that's
it's horrible. I'm praying for hurricane season. I'm like, come on, hurricane.
We
like, where are you?
Just to get relief. Okay, so how did you write? And basically, you're talking really like, what, 2 months, 6 weeks with kids at home?
Probably. Well, my oldest is gone. He's recently graduated from Baylor University. So yes, thank you. So he has a big boy job. Yeah, big, huge. He has a big boy job in downtown Houston, so he's done. My daughter, she's currently working to become an esthetician skincare specialist, which I told her it couldn't come at a better time because, yes, I'm like, I want to basically, my face to be frozen. Yes.
Yeah, me the address.
Yes, I told her, I was like, I want to be able to laugh and people not know that I'm laughing. Like, I just want everything frozen.
My Botox ran out, and I was like, I am so mad at you. And I was like, look at this. I want to be able to, like, I am so mad at you, and just be like.
And frozen. I know. I haven't done the Botox route yet. I'm thinking, I'm seeing a little bit here and there, and I was like, I gotta practice the Kim Kardashian face, like the no smile, stick your tongue in the roof of your mouth, type thing.
Oh,
But
about way too much.
yeah. So she's working on that. So she's gone all day because they don't have like a regular school schedule. She's not done until October. So it's just my little guy, my 10-year-old. And we had time where I was like, you can watch cartoons, you need to practice your guitar, you can, get online with your friends, I'll do my thing, and then the afternoon we'll come together and we'll do lunch and we'll swim in the pool that's 98 degrees, but we're going to pretend like this isn't. Yeah,
our pool is a bathtub also.
Yes, that's it. My daughter said it was like people soup. She's like, I feel like we're soup right now. It's stew. It's way too hot.
Right? She doesn't look her age. I know. I don't know how old you are, Mike, but
thank you. Again, smoke and mirrors, really good makeup. That's what we're working with. But my kids are pretty independent, and then if I tell them, hey, you have this much time, leave me alone, let me do something. Your dad's doing something, and then the afternoon we'll come together, or we'll take a half day and we'll go to the Astros game, or and then in the evening I'm back at it. Like 10 o'clock at night until 1 a.m, just going at it. So I'm running off a very little sleep, and lots of energy drinks.
I was gonna say, either like coffee or caffeine, like sodas or Monster drinks.
Yes. Oh, I have my favorite energy drinks that we buy a case, and like 3 days later, I'm like, we're out. I need to go get more. This isn't acceptable. I need more.
I know. I'm going to give up Diet Coke, and my kids laugh. Like, they're not that generation, right? They don't drink soft drinks and stuff like that. It's like all water because it's, like mine are teenagers. But they're like, what is this with your Diet Coke addiction? Like, hey, everybody my age has it. So, yeah. Okay.
Everybody has their vice. I don't get on you for my kids watch the dumbest videos ever. So I'm like, leave me and my potato chips and my energy drinks alone.
We do watch some of them, I know. Okay, so WestBound comes out in September, and you said it's already been through beta.
It has.
Dr. Pepper, yeah, I know. that stuff is way like, ooh.
Texas is like the land of Dr. Pepper. Yeah. Like Texas, people are obsessed with Dr. Pepper here in Texas. We got a lot of it.
Diet cherry, regular,
everything. Mm-hmm. Strawberry. We got all kinds of them when we go to Waco.
Or tea, sweet tea and unsweetened tea.
Oh, everything. And people laugh because in the Pieces Left Behind, I talk a lot about sweet tea, but it's a thing. You can't. You don't go to somebody's house, a real Southern's house, and if they don't have sweet tea, it's like, ugh.
Are you a Northerner?
Yes. Where are you from? Obviously not this planet, because here in planet Texas, everybody has sweet tea, and it's an addiction.
Yeah. So Dr. Pepper,
all of it. Yeah. It's pretty good, but I'm so excited for WestBound. I feel like I'm betraying my first book because I'm so invested and so into this next one that I have to remind myself, like, I have to visit my babies because they're what started me. So I have to go back and, read every once in a while. And then I'm like, all right, it's time to go. I got to get on to the next one because after this, I've got book 3 coming out in January.
Are they interconnected series? Is it the same cast of characters? Will book 1 appear in book 2 and so on and so forth?
Yes, it is. So it's the world of Magnolia Creek, Texas.
Yeah.
Which, somebody was like, Magnolia, and I was like, not that one. there is a Magnolia, but not this one. But they are. So there's a very large found family friend group, and each of the ladies will have their own story. Right. And the men are kind of the same thing. So in book 2, you're going to revisit some of the people from book 1, and it'll carry over into book 3 for a short novella. And then the last in that series is going to be a crossover into the next series. So,
oh my gosh, 24!
I know. I have a busy couple of years, but I love it. I don't want to stop, especially while it's there.
It's so exciting. when you have a blueprint, when you know where you're going.
Yes. And not only that, but like, you know, I have, like I said, I have that person that I'm just like, oh, and then what about this? And she's like, yes, please put that in a book. And before I know it, I'm like, all right, so I have 8 that I need to write by 2025. I can't be talking to you all the time. I have to focus. And then I'm back to, hey, what do you think of this?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Leave
they
me
are,
alone. I
yes,
love you.
that's it. We talk in memes like all the memes and gifs like all day long. And I'm like, okay, I need to quit searching for these gifs because I need to focus, and it doesn't happen.
Okay, so Westbound comes out September 29th.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you know you already have book 3 coming out in January? Have you already started writing it?
I have bits and pieces of it.
Okay.
I don't know how everybody else does it, but my brain works in that I'll think of a scene that's towards the middle, but I'll write it all out.
Yeah.
And then I'll kind of build backwards. And then I'll have something in the very beginning and I'll build the other way until I kind of meet in the middle and everything meshes. So I've got that going. I told Alicia, book 4's characters are like, they're in my ear. They're yelling at me. They want to get out. And I'm like, you'll have to wait because I don't have, it's not your time yet. Like, you have till April. So just wait. But book 3 is already, the plotting is there, the characters are there, the big moment is there, which I was just talking about this, like people not wanting that third act breakup or the third act, oh my gosh moment. But I don't know how to write a book that doesn't have it. So those moments are built, those are there.
But
so it's going to be.
I think that genre expectations, you know, the inciting event and the breakup and the grand gesture. I mean, you know, there's all of those, right? That we follow and we've heard of forever. Now everybody's like, well, we don't necessarily need them. You're like, but that's like the genre expectation.
Yeah, it does, and I need it, and I don't know. I feel like for me, and I think so many readers, it's that escapism to, you know, my life. It's not every day I meet a 6'4" professional baseball player who looks like that and worships me. Yeah, so it's a nice escapism, but at the same time, it's like I want that drama because at the end of it, I want to be put back together and be like, oh, that was so worth it. That was worth the highs and the lows, and I loved it. And I can't do sunshine and rainbows all the way through because I'm like, that's not life. That's not what really happens.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always, what was I saying to my sister the other day? I said, I just want to write brain candy. I'm a dark romance, so mine's all like trauma and like illegal stuff and, you know, all the trigger warnings. When I tell you trigger warnings, my God, if you go to my website in detail, in the back of my book, all the crisis hotlines, right?
Yes, that's what the first one was.
Can I just write like a meet cute? Like, oh my God, we're at the cupcake stand, and he looked at me and I looked at her.
We reached for the croissant at the same time, and I agree. You know, the Pieces Left Behind has trigger warnings. Yeah, but it's a little bit different than some of these other. It's dark in that there's a lot of reality and mental illness that's addressed. But again, I'm like, I don't know how to not write that. Somebody tell me if that's what you want. Fantastic. Somebody tell me how to do this because I have no clue. I get like 2/3 of the way through, and then I'm like, we need to kill somebody off. Like, this is too happy.
Up the stakes. Like, I haven't thrown enough at my character to make them mentally break down.
That's it. You need that moment where it just like crack, break, because they break and then the readers are like, no, oh my gosh. Same thing. And I told them, you know, a lot of my ARCs, I was like, if you decide you want to, you know, contact me to yell at me for making you cry, I'm sorry, but go ahead. Or if you want to thank me for putting you back together, awesome, do it all. Because if you aren't crying in the book, then I didn't do a good enough job of trying to convey the emotions that I was trying to get to you. But they all told me they cried. They all hated me for a little bit and then said thank you.
I have had I've had that same instance on my debut novel, and my developmental editor for that one, she's like, you cannot cross this line because it involves an animal. And I said, I have to cross the line. That's just how and she's like, no, I'm telling you, go back and rewrite it. And I'm like, I am not rewriting it. How's it gonna be?
No, it's like the kid. You just said don't. So now I'm gonna. I have to.
And I was like, there's no other way. Like, if you've ever owned an animal, you know that they are loyal to the very end. And she's like, people are going to reach out and tell you they hate it.
But that's the small percentage. But then the other percentage is going to be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for putting that in there. I loved it. Or
I told her it's on my website.
Yeah. I let everybody know.
I'm warning.
Yeah. I told y'all. If you didn't, told you before you dove in. Don't you know what you're getting yourself into?
Well, and I do have a couple people that have reached out and they're like, hey, I'm going in blind. I'm like, no, please don't go in blind to any of my books, because that's the worst thing, right? Like, we write about deep triggering things, but I don't want any of my fiction works to be a trigger for anybody. And one of the things I found out this year that I did not realize was pregnancy is a trigger, because so many that are struggling or infertility, or the pregnancy journey is just so traumatic. And I was like, thank you for letting me know, because I had no idea.
Yeah, that's something that I came across when I put out triggers, and I had said the same thing, please read the trigger warnings beforehand, because there is some really deep, dark stuff emotionally and some physical stuff that is going to be dealt with and talked about. But it wasn't until afterwards that somebody told me, like, oh, but there was a pregnancy, and that's really difficult to handle. And I was like, it is? I had no idea. Yeah. But again, it's the journey and the ups and downs that people experience. So now it's like, okay, now I got to remember to put that in there, because I didn't think that was a trigger. But yeah, you're right. It is. There's a bunch of little things that I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, that's another one to add to the list.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I had someone who, even though she was successful in her 2 pregnancies, she says just the trauma of going through IV. And so she reached out to me, and she was a reader, and she said, hey, can I ask you, do your books have any, surprise babies? And so we kind of talked, we went back and forth a lot in my DMs about, well, like, there's no surprise babies. However, at the very end, she finds out she has a half brother who's like 5 years old. Oh. And so we kind of talked through the triggers. And so she was fine with that, as long as there was no, like the billionaire with the surprise baby.
Yeah. Done. or in my case, the other woman who had the baby, and yeah.
Okay, but that happens in real life.
It does. And that's just it. I feel like I took a lot of real life experiences, things that I know people experienced and even I experienced, and folded it into the story. And so I think for that reason, I put in triggers as well, because a lot of people who are facing those kind of issues, it is exactly that trigger that can send somebody into a tailspin. So I made sure to let people know, hey, and then like you said, all the crisis numbers in the back, like reach out, here's who to talk to, because it's pretty heavy.
Well, and I mean, that's the thing, is that it's so realistic of life, and that's what makes the books relatable. But at the same time, if your book can bring someone help, if they go and see how like a character responds and know that there are good people out there that are willing to help. I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, I wrote my most recent book that comes out September 1st, Hamilton. I mean, there's addiction, there's substance abuse, there's prostitution. I mean, it's it's probably one of my darkest ones, considering I wrote a like cartel kidnap one.
I'm like, hold on. I need a pen and a paper so I can write this down to my 500 other books that I'm going to read one day.
My TBR is like 50,000 books.
Yes.
But the way he handles her, she feels obviously very damaged. There's a scene about redemption. I added a little bit more religion than I've ever added in my life, because I just thought that was important, the way to frame it, but also to show like no one is unredeemable, regardless of what anyone has been through, because everybody has trauma, period. And it's not for us to compare your trauma and my trauma and his trauma, we just have it. And so it was, I wanted to unpack in a beautiful way. that he still loved her regardless of all the things she thought in her mind that made her unlovable, unredeemable, you name it, she felt it.
Yeah. And see, and I love that because again, it's that whole world of escapism that I'm not running into that in real life, but there's something inside of me that I'm like, I need that. I need that. So I need to have it. Yeah.
Well, because when you have, and I'm going to say this delicately, when you have kind of a normalish life, that you're blessed not to have major traumatic events or, things that you've overcome, and now you're in a season of calm, you kind of want that, right? You want some excitement because, thank God you're not having to go through all these things. And so we reach out to read the dark things that scare us at night. And then we're so lucky and grateful to go back to our, little house. Everybody's safe. Hey, y'all.
Yes.
Y'all want some sweet tea with that barbecue?
Y'all want Dr. Pepper or sweet tea? Out on the back porch. Well, and I came across something like that today with an author in this group, and she said, I'm struggling because I get these comments like, oh my God, this was fantastic. I love it. It's one of my favorite books. And then you turn the page and it's like, this is disgusting. How could you write something like this? Isn't going to happen in real life. And so there's all these suggestions. And I said, I think what we're dealing with right now is what I like to call the squeaky wheel generation. Everything is very focused on themselves and they whine and they complain. I said, so don't take it, too tough. You've got a lot of younger readers that I don't know if they just want to, they can't imagine, they can't separate the fiction from real life. So it's really hard for them to be looking at this and being like, wait a second, that's not possible. And it's like, in the literary world, it actually is. So I don't know what to tell you.
I know. I literally had a review on my Cartel Kidnap Military Hero book. And it was by another author, and she was just like, this is not even realistic.
I know.
Hope not. I should hope not.
Yeah. And that's the whole point of books. That's the whole reason behind this billion-dollar industry is that people want to escape. They don't want to. If you wrote about my everyday life, you'd get probably into 3 chapters and be like, this is the most boring thing I've ever read. Next. All she's doing is cooking and cleaning and taking care of her kids. Like
over and over again. Well, yes. I mean, that's the cycle, right? When we were little, you go to the library or you get the book fair, and that's what books were, right? You could be anything. You could be a pirate, a princess, an astronaut. And so when we were little kids, you escaped to these other worlds, past, present, and future, where you could be anything. So I don't know why people think just because you grow up that you want to abandon that ability to just be anything and put yourself anywhere in the world, any time and place, whether it be magic or fantasy, sci-fi, you name it. It's like, why would we want the beauty and magic of that to go away in the middle of adulting, which is freaking hard already?
Yeah. If I wanted my life to read a novel, then I wouldn't need a book. But hey, I want to pretend for a little while that I was kidnapped by a mafioso and he's handsome and amazing and he wants me. So for that little while, I'm going to pretend.
Okay, I love all the worlds, right? I'm basically Claire and Outlander and, Jamie.
Gosh, Claire.
My husband.
How many times I've been like, let's go to Ireland or Scotland just so I can check. I just want to see if it's there. And if I put my hand on it, if all of a sudden I'll appear in front of Jamie. I just want to try it.
I mean, I'll die, obviously. I mean, I don't have any like Claire.
I'm like, first of all, there's no sweet tea or Dr. Pepper. I don't know what y'all are drinking.
I know.
Second of all, my hair looks awful. I need makeup. This isn't going to work, y'all.
I know. I joke with my sister because I'm single, I'm divorced, and so I said, Scotland is on our bucket list to go to, and I said, I'm gonna let you know now that if I meet like Jamie over in Scotland, I'm gonna have to ditch you. Okay, I love you, but that's on the table.
You're in charge of the kids.
I will roll that dice.
We, a couple of the girls and I have a thing going that we're like, he so was gonna fall in love for me one day. I just know it. I'm just gonna be at a bar, because all these bars I go to, all these celebrities, and he's gonna see me and he's gonna be like, it's her. I want her. It'll happen one day. I'm sure it will.
Well, okay, I think God should just bring him into my living room. I mean, he's already in my living room, technically, so just,
Yeah,
get him in.
just there. And when you go to Scotland, when you finally get there, please go on the Harry Coo tour and tell me how it is. Because that's like on my bucket list is the Harry Coo cow tour.
Of course, I'm going to do it all. And then I was talking to my sister because they have Pole Dark. Have you seen that series?
Oh, that's my other one that I obsessed with that show. Gosh, I love it.
My
We're
God.
like this on the shows.
Smoking hot.
Isn't he?
He's all
He's beautiful.
clean and dark. I'm just like, damn.
Seeing that, I'm like, okay, you can watch that television show and you fall in love with him, but you read my book and you're like, this isn't reality. She went through a stone, people. That's not reality either. It's the same thing.
I know, right? Dream vacation. It is dream vacation.
Yes.
And let me tell you, if I met some of those men in real life, dude, I would deck them. I'd be like, say that again, say it again. But yet, in my book, you can say that.
You want. Well, and that's kind of WestBound. The main character, the main male character, he
Is that Phoenix?
That's Phoenix West, too. Personally, right now, I'm in love with him. He's amazing. Until I write the next one, and then I'll be in love
He's
with
your
that
boyfriend.
one.
Go ahead.
Yes, he's my current boyfriend. But he says things in there that in the real world, I'd be like, I'd slap the taste out of his mouth if he told me that. But in the book world, I'm like, oh my God. Like, could you imagine somebody saying that to you or doing that to you? Like, goosebumps.
Like, let me reread this. Like I'm reading it for the first time all over again.
All over again. In my head, I'll go back and I'll be like, hold on, I need to say it like he would say it. Let me try it again. I didn't get it right the first time.
Okay, so book 3.
Yes.
Can you tell us, no spoilers, but can you kind of give us a flavor as to where that's going?
Yes. So book 3, I don't know if you've noticed, but my characters are very diverse. I have a lot of multicultural and interracial relationships. So book 3 focuses on Cecilia Desai, she's Indian, and Luca, who is a billionaire alcohol Italian who likes to snap his fingers at her, and as much as she hates it, she loves it. And he kind of is thrust into her world unexpectedly. And I hate to tell them, but it's gonna hurt. There's some stuff in there that's just gonna be like, oh gosh, I didn't think anything could hurt worse, but this hurts so bad. But there is gonna be one of those big third acts. But I really love bringing in different cultures and different races because it's real life. I mean, it's fluffy.
Houston.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Houston is such a melting pot. I feel like. Yes. But it is, I have one of my best friends, she's Indian. And so I'm like, okay, you need to help me because I want to make this as true as possible and not have somebody look at it and be like, she got this all wrong. Fortunately, I don't know any Italian billionaires. So I'm kind of going to fly by the seat of my pants on that one.
They're not part of your art team. Damn it.
I know. I'm like, I told my husband, I told a few of the ladies, I'm doing this for research. I have to go out and find a very rich, handsome man because it's research. It's only research for no other purpose. If I don't come back, though, take care.
I love y'all.
Yes. Mommy loves you.
I know because I have, in my debut novel, I had called Coyote. That was the one that's the cartel. And it's Mexican cartel. And so my sister-in-law, she's Cuban and Sicilian. Oh. And so I had her read, and some people are like, well, the Spanish doesn't translate. But I'm like, there's like several versions of Spanish. So it depends on which one. And so she did all my translation for me. And then, was also kind of like my sensitivity reader to make sure I got it right. But yeah, I think, I love multicultural relationships because it's what we see every day.
Yes.
And so I'm like you though, I want to be cognizant that I'm writing it really well. And so, in my series that I have now, Cañon Series, my 2 books, there, because of this trauma of this exploited minor not trusting men, there's this gay couple that adopts her. And so through their compassion and their dynamic, they get her to trust men again, right? And so, but you know, my sister is gay, and so I would have her read through it and like, hey, I want to make sure I'm getting this right.
Yeah.
And then honestly, I have to admit though, I style it off 2 of my really good friends.
Oh gosh.
And they're an older couple, and they kind of bicker a little bit more than I like. And so I was like, okay, I'll make it all younger and less bickery.
I do that though in pieces. You know, people comment on the friend group, and I'm like, those are they're little bits of real people. Like those women, those men, they really do exist. Yeah. I pull a little bit, and the same with WestBound. And I have again, there's so many people in here that I have to let them out. So I just started a weekly episode, and there's a guy in there, and he's this girl's gay best friend, and one of them was like, oh, I love him, and I was like, those are my best friends, those are them, they're real. It's 2 of them, but they're 1, and it's real. Like, that's really who they are and how they talk. That's where I got it from. And I think that's pretty much all my characters. I always pull a little bit of something. I'm like, this guy is a smart ass, honey, and this is after you. You know, to my husband, I'm like, I put you in here.
You have to, I think, because it makes our characters richer, right? Yeah. And some people have like really odd idiosyncrasies you just kind of pick up on.
Yes.
And other people don't. And so like my character, who is this really sweet gay guy, I didn't want to follow the stereotype where he's flamboyant, although in my real life, Eli is very flamboyant. I mean, some of the things he says, I'm like, oh, you know, but I didn't want to be like, well, I'm not trying to read into any kind of stereotypes or anything like that. So I did, you know, he's a very compassionate, sweet guy, which is like the Eli I have in person.
Yes. And I'm kind of like, okay, this guy's name is Mikkel. And I'm like, do I make him like my friends? Or is a gay drag queen too much to handle? Like, is it going too far? Should I pull it back a little bit? And maybe later, maybe we'll do another series down the road. So I'm just going to put a little sprinkle of, you know, this best friend and this best friend.
Okay, when you do that character, I have a friend, oh my gosh, he's been my sister's best friend for, 30 years or something, like since like early college days. But he is not a drag queen, but he's super flamboyant and has a heart of gold. But what he does when we go out, have you been to Hamburger Mary's downtown?
That is the best place in the whole entire world. And I had spent so much money there. And my husband's like, why do you have all those ones? I'm like, don't worry about it, okay?
We're poor when we go, but there was 20 of us. There's a bunch of December birthdays. And so December we go to Hamburger Mary's. And for those listening, it's a drag queen show. I think they do 2 shows a day.
Yeah.
Like 5 days a week, and it's in downtown Houston.
The earlier one is not, it's like PG-13, whereas the later one is like R.
And they used to do drag queen bingo. I mean, so they have stuff that, tons of events. So if you look them up, it's Hamburger Mary's. So we always go every December, and there must be like 20, 25 of us, and we're along that back wall. And he stands always with his hands like on his back, and he arches it. You know, like those gymnasts get that C in the back. And we've always joked with him, like, what are you doing? He's like, I gotta advertise.
Yes,
what I
gotta make it
have to offer.
That is so much my best friends. They
you can use that in your book.
Yes, they are truly drag queens. I used to be a hip hop dancer, and we had a group, and we performed at events. We'd perform at Pride. We'd walk parades.
Yeah.
We opened for RuPaul, which was like
huge.
It was like highlight of my life. But they're very flamboyant, and I'm like, y'all, I'm not stereotyping. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to patronize anybody. This is who my friends are. Like, this is personal experience.
But that's the thing, right? Shouldn't we all live like authentically us? And You're right. You kind of made the point earlier where people are just so quick to judge and jump on people. And I'm thinking, my gosh, we're
Yeah.
so divisive. Like last time I checked, it's not red or blue. It's not Democrat or Republican. It's just humanity. It's just people trying to be people. Can we just accept, we're all flawed. Sometimes your flaws are visible. Sometimes they're invisible.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody. I just wish people could authentically be themselves all the time because it really could be a beautiful world.
Yes, it was. And I feel like, too, I want you to be yourself, but we don't have to advertise it with flashing signs and um, shun people who don't believe in what you believe in. I always say I want to go back to when I was younger. Like, there's always problems, but I felt like they weren't so in your face like they are now. I don't know if we were blissfully ignorant to them, but I'm like, I don't remember these problems growing up like my kids are currently
Oh,
experiencing, and it makes me so sad because I'm like, all we had to worry about was which Janko jeans and Doc Martens we were gonna wear to school.
well, me and my daughter were just talking about literally today, because it's their first day of school. And she said, this group and that group. I said, honey, I don't know. By the nature of it, if you're in band, you have band practice every day until, and then they're on the field marching until like the lights turn on,
Yeah.
right? Same with football. I said, whatever group you're in, you just were in that group. And I said, you pass in the hallway, and if you went to school with that guy since first grade, you'd be like, what's up, BJ, or whatever. Like, I said, I feel like you guys have it so much harder because the cliques are just impenetrable, right?
Yeah, they are.
And we were like that. It was just like, the band people hung out. Like, you just got along with everybody because you knew everybody after being around them for so many classes for so many years.
Yeah, and maybe you guys didn't hang out, but you're like, oh my gosh, remember, so and so, she does theater. Anyhow, she's really cool. I talked to her in class or whatever. And
You'd be like, I told her, I said, there was this chick who like, hey, Evie. And so I'd be like, oh yeah, like, oh, remember in fourth grade when you did this? You just had a history with people.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter by the time you got to high school what they were into because you already had all this history, like, okay, you went to that one slumber party and they peed the bed, like.
Or your bra got put in the freezer that night because you were the first one to fall asleep.
Exactly.
Yeah, we had the same thing, and it is sad because I feel like when the movie Mean Girls,
and we didn't care.
Yeah, I feel like when the movie Mean Girls came out, it was that escapism. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe girls are like that. But now I'm like, that is real life, and it's so scary. And I have to remind my kids constantly, like, be open-minded to somebody. Maybe you don't agree with them, religiously, politically, whatever it is. But be open-minded because you might learn something from them, and it might be like, oh wow, make you think. And that I think is important, is when you meet somebody that makes you think, and it makes you question things that otherwise you probably wouldn't have even thought about again. I had my aunt, who I used to call her she was my birthday twin, passed away several years ago, but we were incredibly opposite as far as political association went. But when we would talk, we would listen to each other, and she'd be like, oh, I didn't know that. And the same thing, we never argued. We didn't yell. We didn't call each other names. We talked about what we liked or didn't like about somebody. We shared opinions. And then at the end of it, it was like, well, that was good. That was a nice conversation. And that was it. Talk to you again later. So I have to tell my kids, please be open-minded because you might learn something from somebody that you never thought of. Or you would have pushed to the back and forgotten about otherwise.
No, Ryan, you're totally right, because you know what people are? People are stories.
Yes.
People are a collection of their ancestors, what they went through, the things that they've seen. And so everyone around me knows, like, I have 15 opinions about everything. I don't want to hear them. I already know what I think. I want to hear what, like, you think. I want to know about your experiences and how that affected you. Or where were you at, I don't know, when 9/11 happened, where were you and how did it affect you? Like, there's so many events. There's just so much knowledge that people carry. Yeah. And when you get stuck stuck on labels, you're missing out on the goodness of people and their experiences, their stories, their insight. I just find people fascinating. And then,
Yes.
that's kind of why I connect with this, to do these interviews, because people are fascinating.
Yes, I do. I love meeting new people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes I joke and be like, I'm at an age where I'm not accepting applications for new friends. However, the door's always open for interviews type thing. But and I agree. I love meeting new people. I love hearing about new experiences that, I wish I had, or oh my gosh, I never even realized that. And I think that's why I pull in so many different cultures throughout my writing, because of that exact reason, because we're not all cookie cutter. It's not, we're not these perfect little robot people that all look the same and dress the same and talk the same. And I've read books before where everyone looks the same. They all, they're all these perfect little housewives, or the perfect husband that goes away to work at 9 o'clock and comes home at 5. And I've read those types of stories, which for some people that's great, but for me, I'm like, no, I want real life. I want to see, my husband is not Hispanic and I am. So we have different experiences growing up and different likes and dislikes, and so I want to see that in books as well, because I don't want it to all be the same. I don't want it to be Stepford Wives, just
No.
it's kind of boring. And even around me, I mean, in our neighborhood, we have such a diverse neighborhood. My kids' schools are so diverse, and so I want that to reflect in the stories I write, because I feel like sometimes people don't get enough of those experiences in real life. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to give you a little bit of what it's like to belong in a very traditional, strict Indian household, or a crazy Hispanic family, which is mine, or, mine is pretty crazy.
No, I mean, I think that's why this is a good part of social media, because you can connect with other people around the world and always be learning. I have a collab that I do with a Malaysian author, and just her day-to-day life, or how she lives, or the way the buildings are constructed.
Yes.
A Scottish author, she has the most incredible landscapes and just access. We get Prime all the time. I have a friend in India, a reader who I send stuff to, and she's like, we don't have Amazon in India.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I had no idea. I thought it was basically everywhere,
Goodness.
And
How do
so
they live?
I know, I was like, Amazon's at my door every day. Anywho.
Yes.
But it's fascinating, because you have no idea. Like, I am probably not going to go to India anytime soon. One, I need to get my passport updated. Anyway, and so it allows you to connect with people, learn their life, understand what their daily life is. And to me, that is really fascinating, because,
yes.
We walk out and we've had 40 days of 100-degree weather, right?
Yes.
And we're in this severe drought. But that's not like that everywhere.
No, in fact, I don't know if she's still on, but if she is, hi Jolie. She's in the UK, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, it's raining here. I'll trade you." And I'm like, "Yes, please. Yeah. I would love that right now. We really need that." But again, it's that I think sometimes you get in your bubble. I call it our bubble here, where we live in our little area. I call it the bubble.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't see outside of it, and you forget. And I would love to one day do a collaboration with an author from a different country, and we can exchange, kind of like that movie, is it called The Holiday or something like that, where they swap homes. And, like, I feel like that would be such a good book. Like, you each write a little bit and you swap type thing, just to learn about other people, other experiences, other places that normally you have to read a book to see or enjoy.
Oh yeah, because I have an
Oh,
author.
there she is. Hi, Jolie.
There's
she just went.
in Singapore, and she says Singapore is so safe and clean. And so she says, she's writing a romance novel. It just came out. All the Things That Glitter Are Not Gold. Linda Ling, and she said, not everything is like Crazy Rich Asians. Not everybody in Singapore is rich, living in all the high rises that you always see. I said, well, it's the same. Like in New York, not everybody is rich living in the New York high rises. So
yes, like Texas, not everybody's riding around on a horse, and
y'all,
and yeah, carrying their gun in a holster. Although I have seen a lot of that.
I got
But
one right here, right
all,
here.
all the time. All the time. Like my kids, my 10-year-old, he's like, Mom, a gun range just opened up. Can you take me? I'm like, I don't know. Do they allow 10-year-olds in Texas? And my husband's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, guess we're going to the gun range.
Okay, I've been to the shooting range many times. It's a lot of work.
I've I've never been. I grew up like deathly afraid of guns.
Yeah.
But again, I think the climate has changed so much that I'm like, maybe I should know how to use one just in case. Plus, we're in Texas, so I mean,
Plus we're in Houston.
I know it's kind of required, I feel like cowboy
I'm
boots.
right. Woo.
Oh gosh, I know. Again, we're lucky that we live a little bit yeah, we live on the edge. We live north, so we're in our bubble, so we don't always see that. Um, but I hear other people and other friends are like, "Oh my gosh, did you hear about this?" And I'm like, "No, no, 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 I don't want to hear. I'm perfectly happy."
I'm in the city, so let me tell you.
Yes, you live where I think we were looking in that area at one time when
Yeah.
we first moved here.
Yeah.
We looked all over the place, and then we were like, "It's quiet up there. Let's go over there." It's really quiet.
For real.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a few more questions if you don't mind staying on. Okay,
I love it.
what is the hardest part of being an indie author, and what is probably the easiest for you?
Oh, the hardest is just getting my name out
Yeah.
there. Like you said, I don't have that publishing house backing me. I don't have a big PR firm that's doing it for me. I'm the one man show. I'm out there pounding the pavement, trying to, okay, I got to give away 100 ARCs, 100 copies just so I can get it in the hands so that I can get enough people to talk about it
Yeah.
to start that like, oh, hey, who is she? Which it's finally starting to happen. And I'm just like, oh, it's so amazing. So that's the toughest part is just being known. The
Okay, can I
easiest,
interject one quick thing right there? So I was listening to a webinar today so do you know Book Funnel?
yes,
Do you
yes.
know Book Funnel is started here in Houston by a couple?
Oh, I didn't know that.
And they run it out of their house. So I was listening to this webinar,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that was totally fascinating. But that's what he was saying is he said it's so important, it's like so that traction of getting your name out there and delivering those. And that's why they started Book Funnel. He says because there are so many indie authors. He said not necessarily, traditionally published. He says, but what we're seeing now in the market, because I think it's been around 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
They originally started for indies. He said, we've dabbled in traditional, more so in recent years because traditional are not getting the marketing dollars and contracts that were popular when you would go.
Yeah.
Everyone now, whether you're indie or traditional, wants you to bring your own follower base and all your own sales.
Yes.
Because they just don't want to spend the money anymore.
Yes.
Unless, like, I don't know, a huge name.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. My husband would be like, I'd be like, oh, this many books went out today. And he's like, you sold that many? And I'm like, no, I gave that many away because I said, I've got to get my name out there some way. I have to put my story in the hands of other people. And to do that, I can't just sit back and wait for them to, run across and be like, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. I'm going to buy this and tell everybody I know. So that's the hardest part is just getting myself out there and building that fan base and working really hard to make those connections with people. The easiest thing for me has been, I think, maintaining those relationships I've already made through readers because I feel like I don't have the pressures of somebody hanging over my head telling me what I need to do next. I can take a little time to chat with some of the ladies in the ARC group and joke or answer questions about the book or about the next one. And that's been the best part, the absolute best part. In this short amount of time, I have formed such an amazing relationship with these women that I'm like, I hope y'all know you're stuck with me. Like, you can hide.
We're not breaking up.
Yes.
We're not breaking up.
Yeah, I told my PA that. I was like, you can try to get rid of me, but it's not happening. Like, I will hunt you. You're stuck. That's just how it is.
Not in the book way.
No. So that's been the most amazing thing I've taken away from this. If I never write another book again, these women have supported me, have boosted me up, have, fluffed my pillow when I felt like I was just so down. They've really helped me a lot, and they've helped me believe in me, which a lot of times there was those times where I'm like, no, I can't, I don't have it in me to tell myself you can do it. They do, and they're amazing, and I love them so much. And I tell them, when we get together, it's gonna be trouble. Like, somebody's like, I'll keep bail money. The other person's like, I've got your alibis. The other one's like, I'm sorry, I can't help because I'm going to be causing trouble. The other one, we're going to be jailmates. We're cellmates. Like, we are already called. Like, I call Top Bunk. You and
I already had this planned out. You go to Hotel America's downtown. Y'all go over to, like, an Uber over to Hamburger Mary's. And then, like, you can just literally go up, like, Maine, have a good time. I mean, I have it planned out for y'all.
We got it. Well, and I even told him, I was like, if we ever end up at Book Bonanza together, we'll probably be banned. They'll be like, those people right there, never let them back in. They'll probably pay us to never come back, because I said, I can already tell we are so much trouble. And it's great because we've got, the ages range from like 20s, 30s, 40s on up. And I'm like, this is just awesome. I love it. I love these ladies. And as soon as I see them all, oh my gosh, Gabby's, everybody's laughing, because we have had conversations where everybody's like, well, I don't drink, so I'll drive. Well, I'll keep money. Well, I will, like,
everybody has roles.
Everybody has a role. Everybody has a role. Mine is just like, if I find my guy, I'm going after him, and I might get arrested.
I'm ditching y'all.
Yes. They already know. They already know what their job is and who they're supposed to be.
That is so sweet. I have a few rapid fire questions if you are ready.
Right, let's go.
Okay, paperback or e-reader?
E-reader.
Yeah, they're easy to go through. Plotting or pantsing?
Oh my gosh. Okay, say it again, and then I'll just say whatever comes to my mind.
Plotting or pantsing?
Plotting.
Well, okay, but you kind of pants because you're not chronological, which I find fascinating. Okay. You kind of are starburst, right? You'll write this, you'll write that, you'll write that, and then you interconnect the lines to then become a story.
You're right. I think it was like, I have to choose, it's like that gun to your head, and I just said whatever. But you're right. I do that. I'm very non-traditional when I do that. So, okay, I take my answer back. Yours is right.
No, I love that. That just speaks to what a creative brain you have, because I am literally the PBS bouncing ball. And I'm like, don't get it out of order. But I find it fascinating when you can write pieces all over the place and then weave them in. I feel like it's a greater talent.
I don't know. Alicia asked me sometimes, she's like, I think it's fascinating how this works, how your brain works. And I said, yeah, I'm like, okay, this character in this series, well, I had another series already planned out, but maybe I can bring them together. And I wrote a little bit of his story, and I wrote a little bit of her story. And I'm like, okay, we're going to make this happen. We're going to bring these two universes together, and we're doing this. And she's like, yes, so excited for it.
See, and it works.
Yeah.
First person or third person?
First person.
Plot driven or character driven?
Character.
Ooh. Yeah.
I base a lot of this story off of who that person is, their attitude, their mannerisms or idiosyncrasies. That's where it all starts from.
I love that. Writing alone, writing with a partner, or writing sprints?
I guess writing alone. I'm kind of a loner in that aspect, just because I don't know a lot of author friends. I don't have author friends yet.
We're friends now.
Yay.
Whether you like it or not, Ryan.
Don't freak out when I show up at your door one day and be like, are you ready to go?
Hey, bestie. Let's go get lunch and work for the next
Yes.
It's funny though. I have like 3 guy friends that are my best friends, and I literally would go to their house just to have a change of scenery, and I'll like go and just plant my ass on their couch and work.
Yes. That's the only way I get a different scenery is just moving to like a different room. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go sit in the kitchen nook, I guess, and I'll stare out the window. That's my change of scenery.
You're living wild.
Yes. Crazy. Sometimes I even put on pants with buttons. So I know. It's big time. My husband's like, where are you going dressed up? I'm like, it's just pants. He goes, yeah, but they have buttons and zippers on them. I'm like, oh, I guess I've been wearing spandex too much.
Oh, I have this whole like new wardrobe of athleisure wear, like me and Athleta or Lulu. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, from like April until September, you'll find me in like baseball gear.
Yeah.
Starting September, it's all football. Football. So that's another book that's coming up. It's a football book, but it's in the future, way in the future.
So cute. Outline or discovery writing? Or starburst?
I'm a starburst, I guess. I'd like to be like outline, and I'm very proactive about, planning out and sticking to it, but I'm not.
You should do it like this. You're like, I'm a starburst.
I'm a star, baby. Let's just go with star.
Starburst.
The stars in the sky are big and bright.
Oh, that's so cute, that Texas song. Okay, write in silence or write with music?
I do both. I do both. Sometimes I need complete silence. Today I had music and like Dateline secrets or something at the same time, and it was a lot to handle.
Oh my gosh, I didn't do that because I'd end up writing the Dateline secrets, like transcribing it into my novel, and I'd be like, "What is no?"
And you get that Keith Morrison, or was something sinister? Wait, this isn't a sinister story. What happened?
Does he have the best storytelling, or what?
The everything voice.
Phenomenal.
If my life is ever made into like a movie, I just want him to narrate it because his voice is phenomenal. I love it.
Morgan Freeman, when he does like all the Earth ones, and I'm like, you can read me the dictionary, but he with the dramatic pauses.
Yes.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy was made for this.
He couldn't have been successful in anything else he'd ever done. Yeah. Like you couldn't be a painter, dude. It wouldn't work.
Exactly. No.
Yes.
Writing with the deadline or at your own pace?
Deadline.
Yeah.
Much better at a deadline.
Because, girl, you said some impressive ones.
Yeah.
The capital A.
Some people say it's like, how can you mentally do it? And I'm like, actually, for me, that's like stability. Because then I know, like, I've got this is what I have to meet. This is my deadline. It's kind of like when I was studying in high school or college or whatever. I would do better when I know I had a time constraint.
Yeah,
if they were just like, hand it in whatever, I'd be like, it's not getting done. Just so you know, I'm not handing that in.
Yeah. Series or standalone? We said series.
I'm series, I guess.
I
just like to build. Yeah, I love to build this world of characters. And sometimes you get a character in a book and you're like, no, I want to know his story. Somebody please. And so I like the series.
Yeah. Historical setting, present day, or future?
Can I eliminate one? Because I'm going to say not future. The other two, we live in both worlds, past and present.
Well, future's hard because you got to know what the technology is, and when does robots come in? Like, when is it going to be like Will Smith's iRobot? Yes. When is the world taking?
Yes. Where is my what's her name? Rosie from the Jetsons? Nobody's thrown me waffles from their stomach yet. I'm still waiting. Like I have to tie my own shoes and make up my own bed, and this is ridiculous. I'm not happy with it. Yeah, I future's hard. One day I'm gonna write that 80s, 90s book that looks into maybe present day.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll do that. But I got 8 other ones I got to get out first.
Your book till 2025.
Pretty much, and sprinkling in those little episodes on top of that for people because they're just like waiting. When's the second one? I'm like, all right, it's not done yet, but here's another one.
Is that in like Vellum or Vella? Vellum?
I think it's Vellum editing, Vella stories, right? I think that's what it is.
Those are in Kindle Vella?
They are not. They are actually on Ream Stories. I was going to do Patreon, and then I believe it was Jillian Dodd who had said again, I ended up in this other group that I don't know how I get into these groups with these people, but I'm like, you guys are like my heroes, so this is awesome.
Yeah.
But yes, exactly. And I'm like, can I screen record really quick?
Yeah.
But they told me all about Ream Stories, and it was created for authors by authors.
Is that REAMS?
REAM. Ream and then Stories. And it's kind of the way of Patreon, a little bit of Vella, but there's not as many guidelines. You can get away with a lot more on Ream that other places crack down. Like you would probably fit in really well.
All right, I'll have to check that out.
Kay Webster uses Ream a lot. That's her big platform for all of her banned books.
Oh, I know, because let me tell you, like Amazon is like quick. They put that label on and you're never getting it off.
Yes, we've had a whole discussions on like, do not click that box that says my content is for 18 and over. You'll end up in the dungeon. Put a disclaimer on there, but don't click that box. So yeah, I think that happened to I think it happened to Becca Mack recently. That happened, and she was like, I'm in the dungeon. I don't know what's going to happen to me now. I don't know if it's ever going to get out of there. So
yeah, because they're not searchable. They make those books not searchable.
No, and it's sad because they deserve the right too. They need their voices heard. Somebody wants that story.
Audience for everybody. So you put episodes, what you said, once a week on Ream?
Once a week. I just the first episode I dropped yesterday. It was free in the newsletter, and I posted the second one today. So episode 1 and 2. It's an age gap rock star romance. She's a juicy gossip journalist, and she messed with the wrong person.
That sounds intriguing. So do you write that as you go, or do you already have that story and then you break it up and just drop it in?
I am writing it as I go. As it builds in my head, again, I will take a break and I'll be like, hold on, I just had this idea. So episode 1 and 2 are done. Episode 3 is halfway done in here, and episode 4 is a little bit done on paper. So I'm tying it all in. I know some people do it all and then schedule their episodes when they come out, but I'm like, no, this is going to be like, it's midnight and I need to release this episode. I need to write it real quick type thing.
Oh yeah, because we figured out you will get assigned the term paper.
Yes.
And then you'll write it. Yeah. So that's you.
Yes.
Like
yes.
Deadline.
Give me a deadline. If you tell me I have to have an episode out every Wednesday, perfect. If you just say whenever, you'll never get them. They'll never be there. You'll be waiting. You'll be watching an empty pot trying to boil.
Well, is that the same? Are they? So that's a totally different series than your main series.
Yes.
Oh, that's fun.
This was, again, I laughed. This was to kind of quiet down the people before they riot, because they're like, we want book 2 now. I said, I know, I'm trying, but there's like a process I have to finish. Yeah. But in the meantime, it's like, here's a little snack to hold you over. Yeah. Well, in between. And it was one of those that, again, I'm talking with Alicia, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, what if? And she's like, yes, write it, do it. So I did. I just wrote it out.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Because it's a nice palate cleanser, right?
Yes. For I think both me and the reader. So it helps.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's a good one. Palate cleanser. I'm going to keep that. I didn't think that's a good one. A good one.
You're welcome. Well, anyway, I feel like me and you could talk forever.
Yes. Until somebody comes and is like, get off. Like, my family's speaking at me.
Or my dog decides to start playing with his toy and squeak it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I think we're done.
Yeah.
But I will catch up with you in the DMs.
Yes.
And I hope to meet you soon, in person really soon.
Me too. I would absolutely love that.
Oh my gosh, you've been a delight. Thank you so much for spending time with me and us on here.
Yes, thank you for having me, and thanks to all my hype crew, my party people for coming. I appreciate it very, very much.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Y'all have a good rest of the evening.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.